You found Ask Alice, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the societal currents shaping our lives. I'm your host, Alice, and together we'll explore the often unseen forces at play. We'll examine cutting-edge research, dissect the data, and most importantly, if you're seeking to understand what's shaping our society,
Great
this
to be
is
here.
the place.
Today we're taking a closer look at Senator Josh Hawley and his opposition to a specific bill, the Genius Act.
Right, the one aimed at stablecoins, those digital currencies, pegged to the dollar usually.
Exactly. We've got the legislative details, some analysis, public statements, the usual source material.
And our goal here is really to unpack it, understand the bill, Hawley's position, and especially dig into this idea. Was his opposition mostly about stopping big tech, the Apples and Metas, from issuing their own money?
It's a key question, that intersection of new finance tech and old worries about corporate power.
Okay, so let's start with the act itself. The Genius Act. What was the main thrust?
Well, the sources say it was about setting up a regulatory lane, basically, specifically for payment stablecoins, the ones meant for actual transactions.
Okay, so rules for using crypto to buy stuff.
Pretty much. The aims were, foster innovation, but also add guardrails, consumer protection, financial stability.
And how did big tech potentially fit into this picture?
That's crucial. The analyses point out a specific feature. The bill explicitly allowed non-banks to become issuers.
Non-banks, so not just traditional financial institutions.
Right. And it specifically said these non-banks would not be restricted to financial firms. That's a pretty open door.
So a company whose main business isn't finance could jump in.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
And for the big players, anyone with over $10 billion in stablecoins out there, they'd face federal oversight.
Who would oversee them?
For these non-banks, it would have been the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, the OCC.
Okay, the OCC regulating non-banks as major stablecoin issuers.
Which is interesting because it sort of blurs that traditional line between banking and, other commerce. Some critics definitely saw this.
They saw it as a pathway for who, specifically?
For the giants.
Yeah.
Apple, maybe Meta. Companies with huge user bases, tons of cash, existing platforms. They could potentially enter and maybe even dominate the market quickly.
Which leads us right to Senator Hawley.
Exactly. Because, looking at the sources, Hawley's public stance is, it's very consistently critical of big tech.
Yeah, he talks a lot about their market power, data issues, antitrust. That's kind of his thing.
It is. So, how did that play out with the Genius Act? Two main actions stand out in the records.
Okay, what were they?
First, he voted no on the cloture motion.
Cloture, remind me.
It's the vote to end debate and move the bill forward in the Senate. Voting against it is basically a way to block or significantly slow down a bill.
And he wasn't alone on that.
No, he voted with most Democrats and also Senator Rand Paul against moving it forward. So it stalled.
Okay, that's one action. What was the other?
He tried to attach an amendment. His own bill, actually the 10% credit card interest rate cap act.
Interesting. Adding a cap on credit card interest to a stablecoin bill.
Yeah, it's a populist kind of measure focused on traditional finance. Some saw it as a tactic maybe to make the stablecoin bill more complicated or perhaps link it to broader concerns about corporate power and finance, both old and new.
So if you put it together, his known stance on big tech, the bill potentially empowering them, and then these specific actions, the vote, the amendment.
The inference drawn from the sources is pretty strong. It suggests his opposition was, at least in large part, driven by those concerns about big tech getting into digital currency issuance.
The sources don't have him saying this is my only reason, right?
No, not explicitly the sole reason. But the alignment between his record, the bill's specific structure allowing non-banks, and his actions. It points heavily towards the big tech angle being a major factor for him.
Got it. But he wasn't the only one pushing back on the bill, correct? There were other concerns.
Absolutely. It wasn't just one viewpoint. Senator Elizabeth Warren, for instance, raised different flags.
What were her main points?
Her focus, according to the material, was more on financial stability risks, potential for corruption, stable coins being used for illicit finance.
I think I remember her quote, something about kingpin of illicit crypto.
That's the one the sources mention. And also concerns about consumer protection not being strong enough in the bill. So different reasons, but still leading to skepticism.
So with all these different objections,
the bill just didn't make it. It failed to advance.
Looking back at this whole debate then, what does it tell us? Or tell you, the listener?
I mean, it really highlights how tricky regulating new tech like stablecoins is, doesn't it? You start talking innovation, and bam, you're right into these huge questions about economic power.
Like, who gets to control this new digital value?
Exactly. And how do we make sure the system is stable? How do we protect regular people using this stuff? It all gets tangled together.
And the big tech angle seems like it's not going away.
Probably not. As digital assets get more integrated, you can bet these discussions about powerful companies, especially tech firms, moving into finance. They'll keep coming up in regulatory debates.
It leaves you with that question, right?
Yeah.
How do you nurture the good stuff, the innovation, without letting control just end up with a few already powerful players?
That's the balancing act, something to keep an eye on as this all continues to unfold.